Uh, I'm trying to think the last time we spoke. Probably 6 years ago. You're making some headlines here, Scotty.
Dan, I'm always making headlines. I need to keep my mouth closed.
Is there anything that you want to clarify, put in context from the GQ article?
Uh, Not really. I mean, I think with the Kevin Durant thing, I think that people may not have understood the question asking me, had he surpassed LeBron James? From a standpoint of looking at it at basketball and what LeBron James have been able to do from carrying a team, I don't think Kevin Durant is at a position where I can say that he surpassed LeBron James.
Yeah, and you're just being an analyst here looking at this. It didn't feel personal, but it felt like Kevin took it personally. Is that how you kind of assess that?
Yeah, and that's kind of how Kevin takes anything, unless you're praising him and pushing him up. And I wasn't trying to, in any way, belittle him. I think he's a very talented player. He's shown that by, he's an MVP. He has two Finals MVPs, but still, the question that I answered was based on him and LeBron's comparison.
How would you guard him, and how different would that be in guarding LeBron?
Well, Dana, I'm going to be honest. The way I played the game, they would have to come back in my era and play. I can't play in today's era. This is a non-touch game. This is a shooter's game where there's not any contact. I played in an era where the game was physical, and you had to physically be ready for that type of challenge night in and night out. It wasn't a game where you knew you were going to get open shots or you weren't going to get knocked to the floor. To ask me how I would guard those guys would be difficult for me if I'm looking at today's rules.
If Durant was playing by 1995 rules against you,
I mean, it would be a totally different game for him. He wouldn't be the same player that he is today. His ball handling would be limited because you could get into a player's body, but not just Durant. I mean, every player. I mean, the game had more physicality to it where you could pretty much guard a player from 94 feet and use your defensive skills to try to take him out of the game. And that's not where today's game is.
Although LeBron could play in 1995, the physicality probably wouldn't affect him as much, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Kevin Durant couldn't play. I'm just saying he would not be that type of scorer. Now, on the other hand, LeBron James doesn't look to be a horrific scorer when he plays the game. He plays the game in a whole different mindset. He utilizes his teammates. He looks to be a distributor more so than a scorer, but he's a very effective scorer because of his size and his strength.
Do you think LeBron would have made the Nets better, that they would have gotten in? They'd still be playing?
I can't say that by saying yes.
Okay.
But it would have been a whole different look had LeBron been on the court. He's more of a distributor. Kevin Durant is a scorer. So you're going to be looking at a guy that's going to be playing more for triple doubles instead of trying to score 40 or 50. I'll say that.
Help me understand the GQ article where you talked about the 1994 playoff game when you refused to go back in the game and Phil set up the play for Tony Kukoc.
Well, I mean, it's not much to be said. If you go back and look at when Scottie Pippen entered the Bulls and when Tony Kukoc entered the Bulls, and who deserved the last shot of the game.
No. I understand that, Scotty. I'm just going by what you said. You said you need to read between the fine lines, and then you go on to say it was a racial move to give him, Tony Kukoc, a rise.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you knew that Scottie Pippen had been with the Bulls from 87, battled through the Pistons, and every other team that we had to get to those 3 championships, wouldn't you give Scottie Pippen one opportunity to get a last-second shot without Michael Jordan? Like 1 year without Michael Jordan. can I get one shot? Like, I'm doing all the dirty work.
But all of that I understand from the basketball standpoint. But when you say a racial move,
well, why would Tony, who was a rookie, get the last second shot and you put me out of bounds? That's what I mean, racial. Like, that was Scottie Pippen's team.
But
Scottie
Phil
Pippen
then
was
but
on pace to be an MVP that year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why would you put him in a position not to be successful? Why wouldn't you put him in a position to succeed? Michael Jordan is not there. So who's next in line for you?
But have you talked to Phil about this? Because by saying a racial move, then you're calling Phil a racist.
I don't got a problem with that.
Do you think Phil was or is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you remember Phil Jackson left the Lakers, wrote a book on Kobe Bryant, and then came back and coached him? I mean, who would do that? You name someone in professional sports that would do that, you know? I think he tried to expose Kobe in a way that he shouldn't have. You're the head coach, and you're the guy that sits in the locker room and tells the players, this is a circle, and everything stays within the circle, because that's what team is about. But you as the head coach, open it up, and now you go out and you try to belittle, at that time, probably one of the greatest players in the game.
Well, it feels like he's disloyal. I don't know if that makes him a racist.
Well, that's your way of putting it out, and I have my way. I was in the locker room with him. I was in practices with him. You're looking for him afar.
Yeah, and look, that's why I wanted to have you on. But I go back, and Phil designed a play for Steve Kerr when Mike was there, and Mike didn't have a problem with that, did he?
I don't want to. You're not setting me up to answer the right question. What do you mean Phil set up a play for Steve Kerr? He didn't set that play for Steve Kerr. He set that play for Michael Jordan.
I thought in the huddle, Mike says, "I'm going to throw you the ball. You'll be open at the foul line." And Phil had nothing to do with that.
And you don't want to get this show started because it'll take us a long time. Do you know all those cameras that's sitting in that huddle who they was working for?
The NBA.
So you know who Michael was speaking to when he said that, right? that was planned. That was speaking to the camera. That wasn't speaking out of what we're going to have to do, what the play is going to be. That was speaking to the camera. Had John Stockton not came down, trust me. But that was building his own documentary, because he knew he was controlling the cameras. You understand English?
Yeah.
Okay. So all those cameras that was working were working basically for Michael Jordan, not for the Chicago Bulls. But they were building the Come Fly With Me, the Air Jordan videos. That's what it was. That was not naturally spoken.
Okay. All right.
That was rehearsed.
Okay. Did you guys understand that he was doing a documentary that last year?
We understood from Phil Jackson that the NBA wanted to do some behind the scene footage for the team documentary. That's what we was understood. That's what we were sold. But that wasn't how it all went down.
You phased out a little bit there with your connection. So yeah. I wasn't pausing. I wasn't pausing because I didn't understand what you were saying. Just wanted to let you know. But you feel like there's anger with you or clarification or something. I don't know. I'm trying to get a feel for this.
I think it's more clarification.
Because you had a great career.
I'm not angry at all. Yes, I've had a great career. Wonderful time in Chicago, and it is what it is. But I think there needs to be some clarification, about a lot of things that happened, whether it was in the documentary or through the GQ ad that I spoke on.
Yeah, I didn't know, how you were portrayed in the documentary, and obviously it was slanted. But if everybody knew you signed a bad contract, did it need to be brought up that you signed a bad Like, I don't know, it felt like it was
Yeah,
piling
well,
up.
I think my biggest thing with the documentary was that Michael, who didn't play in '94, who was selling a video based on The Last Dance, was something that he sort of tried to pull out to show that our winning was all about me. And this is what everybody else did when I wasn't around. Because he didn't need that in his documentary. I mean, he wasn't on the team.
Yeah.
And if anything, if you're going to show that you called Phil, why didn't you show that you called Phil to bat for me? I mean, I'm probably was the only man standing who had been there with him back in the early 80s. But yet he comes back the next year because it was getting good. We weren't fading away.
Have you talked to Michael since the documentary?
No.
Do you want?
Not really talk. We kind of talked during it a little bit, but no.
Do you want to?
No, I mean, I think we both moved on in our life. There's nothing to be holding on to that went on 20 plus years ago.
What did you think?
And there's nothing for us to talk about that. I mean, we could talk about our life and our families and our golf game or something, but we ain't got to go back and clarify nothing that happened in the '90s.
What did you think when he said he was going to go play baseball?
I didn't really think about it. I was really focused on my own craft at that time, but I thought it
was a big decision, though.
Yeah, it was a big decision, but it was a selfish decision, but it was kind of who Michael Jordan was, and was a guy that kind of believed that he can do anything on his own.
The relationship was just we're teammates, and that was about it?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, we were excellent teammates. I mean, I think we try to make more out of it sometime than what it really was. But, we were great court teammates who had a very good understanding of each other and what it took to win.
Talking to Scottie Pippen, he has a new bourbon out, Digits. That's been in the works for a while. How did you come up with this idea?
I see, I've been a little boozer for quite a while. I think winning here in Chicago and spending a lot of cold winters here. So I used to be a bit of a Crown Royal drinker. And during the pandemic, me and my business partner just kind of sitting around talking, and he said, "Hey, you should create your own bourbon." And he said, "I got an idea." And he had been in the wine business for quite some time. So he had a little bit of confidence that he could, I guess, get through the doors and into Savage and Cook, which is Dave Finney's company.
What's next?
Well, there's a few things. I got my Huss popcorn, which is a superfood, and it's something that we're looking forward to launching here in the next couple of weeks.
What's in this book that's coming out in the fall?
Just pretty much more about my career, starting up, growing up in a small town, Hamburg, Arkansas, and, advancing on to Central Arkansas, and just kind of, my life and what channels and all that I went through trying to get into the NBA, and, what it was like playing with Michael and Phil and playing for the Bulls organization.
I got to believe there's going to be something in here that's going to get you in trouble, Scottie. I'm like, right? There's got to be something that's coming out in this book, right?
Dan, I don't get in trouble. I try to keep everything
Trouble may find you, Scottie. I don't know.
It's just, yeah, every time I open my mouth, somehow it seems to try to drive me down a trouble path, but I'm really not trying to mislead anybody or
Did you
disrespect.
did you ever play Jordan one-on-one in practice?
No, no.
How would that have gone?
It would have been interesting. He had his moments where he was at a high, and I had my moments in my career where I was at a high. So it would have been an interesting matchup. But in my era, I never really believed in one-on-one, and that's kind of where the game has evolved into today.
By the way, on that draft night, when you and Olden and Polynice were traded for one another,
yes,
I'm sitting right there, and you guys had hats on. So you have your Seattle Supersonics hat on, and then all of a sudden you hear and a trade to announce. The Bulls and Supersonics are swapping first-round picks. So you and Olden and Polynice changed hats right there in front of us. It was wild to see that. You ever wonder what your career would have been like if you weren't traded?
I mean, I would have had some pretty good teammates, especially if we would have still landed Sean Kemp, Gary Payton. It is a team that we played in the finals, so that sort of fit.
That would have been a pretty good team to join. That would have been fun to go against Mike with that Seattle team.
That would have been a lot of fun. Yeah. I don't know if he would have made it that far. If you know what I mean.
Well, see, there you go. You're stirring it up again.
I'm just saying.
Mike needed you. He didn't win without you, right?
That's what they tell me.
Well, good luck with